Y llegamos al final, y el último ponente es Su Excelencia el doctor Adama DIENG, que es secretario general adjunto de las Naciones Unidas y asesor especial para la prevención del genocidio en la ONU. Fue antiguo miembro del Instituto Internacional para la Democracia y también fue secretario del Tribunal Internacional para los Crímenes en Ruanda. Tiene la palabra.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I would like, first of all, to start by saying that when we speak about the role of education, we should not see only education from the formal type, but a wider sense of education. And there is a need today also to educate even the religious leaders. And having said that, I will say that education has a vital role to play in undermining prejudice, in shaping attitudes and behaviors of tolerance, and in cultivating respect for human rights of all people. And then I think we should focus on the role of education in building resilience to violent extremist ideologies and through education, the type of skills, competencies, and values that those involved with the education of young people should help them acquire. We have, therefore, to consider education as a priority, a top priority, and there is no stronger foundation for reconstruction and resilience, living together and lasting peace. So, therefore, we underline that the role of actors such as religious community leaders and organization, group faith organization, the role they can play in promoting and instilling positive values and resilient skills beside what, as I said earlier, beside what the formal education system can accomplish. If I go through the report of the Secretary General Ban Ki-moon on the responsibility to protect, R2P, he published many years ago a report entitled State Responsibility and Prevention. And that report indicates clearly that, and I quote him, changing the behavior, attitudes, and perception of young people can contribute to creating a society that is resilient to atrocity crimes. And this means definitely that education is not only about acquisition of academic and technical skills. Education must be more than transmitting information and knowledge. It must also be about learning to live together. It must be about solidarity on the basis of human rights and equal dignity. I always remember in 1992 when I led a fact-finding mission to South Africa. That was 2 years before the end of the apartheid regime. I meet with a group of young school boys and girls near Pietermaritzburg. And I did ask them, what is the most important human rights? And I can tell you, it was not the right to life. It was the right to education. Those young people, that was the first right they put as the most important right. But today, when you visit the same place, you will see that there's a kind of growing xenophobia. Isn't that surprising that South Africa, which faced it for many decades, crimes which has been recognized as a crime against humanity, apartheid, is having today young people who are developing xenophobia, which may lead tomorrow to racism. So that means the education should definitely include what I have been saying earlier, the importance of learning to live together. And I think that is extremely important. And I'm glad that the South African authorities have realized that there is there a danger. And my good friend, the former High Commissioner for Human Rights, Navi Pillay, is involved in a group which is now producing a report on these new trends of xenophobia in South Africa. So because xenophobia also leads to violence, it will lead to it may lead to atrocity crimes, etc. So if we agree with these principles and these objectives, and I think therefore what we have to realize is also that when we speak about education, it can't be only for the immediate term, because the impact of education will be measured in the long term. But therefore, what to do in the immediate term? And that's where in the immediate term that the religious leaders and actors have a critical role to play. And I think we can at least identify in the long-term prevention at least 3 objectives that are core to my current mandate, that are core to the UNESCO works as well. One is promoting critical thinking skills that to mitigate the attraction of simple black and white truth, to integrate complexity, to counter conspiracy theories, anti-Semitic, as we are witnessing even today. I think I mentioned in the first day that we are these days witnessing a rise of anti-Semitism in Europe. We are witnessing a rise of Islamophobia, and how to counter those things, and there the critical thinking skill is important. And second, that is creating opportunities to civic engagement, opportunities to values for citizenship. And this could help to strengthen the sense of identity, of belonging, to help young people voice their opinions, to voice their frustration, their grievances, and participate in civil and political life. We have witnessed it in Belgium, we have witnessed it in France, in many countries, where you have young people who seems to be totally abandoned, who don't feel this sense of citizenship, who don't feel being integrated. And unfortunately, we had to wait until these terrorist attacks to realize, starting that, well, these young people are part of our community. We have to care about them. And just last week, the French Prime Minister engaged a program of de-radicalization, but also saying we need to go beyond the de-radicalization. We have to look also what these young people need. And there has been this series of demonstrations these days in Paris by young people during the nights, another form of May 1968. What they are asking more. So these are issues which needs to be addressed. And the third objective would be fostering intercultural competencies, respect for diversity. I mean, intercultural competencies relate to encounters between people / social actors of different cultural background in different socio-economic contexts, and their capacity to engage in genuine dialogue with a view to preventing misperception, stereotyping of the other, and conflict. Intercultural competencies are about the capacity to navigate in the increasingly complex and rapidly shifting context of contemporary multicultural societies and settings. In that regard, I think the recent election of one of our former colleague in the field of human rights lawyer, Farid, as a new mayor of London, show how important it is also to really enable this, I would say, living together, to respecting the diversity, the multicultural. I mean, London is, to me, I mean, she will agree certainly with me, Ghanea, such a multicultural city, where you feel that you have every people from every part of the world. I mean, this is a great premiere to have a mayor in Europe being of a Muslim origin who is a Muslim, and that shows that there is no incompatibility between Islam as a religion and the Western values. You know, so I think that is something we have to realize. And at the time when I criticized the Declaration on Human Rights in Islam, the Islamic Declaration of Human Rights, I made a presentation, I think it was in 1995, before the then UN Human Rights Commission. I reminded that we have to make sure that this declaration do not counter the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because the values contained in the UDHR are the very same values being promoted by Islam, being promoted by Christianism, being promoted by all religion. I mean, there is not a single religion which will preach for violence. And I will always remember when I met Pope Francis I, you know, in June 2013. And after I had a very long meeting with both first Cardinal Toran and Cardinal Taxon. And what I was very pleased to get out of those discussions was that, look, today, in France, you have many young people who are joining the Buddhism. Why? Because they said, well, Buddhism is a religion which preaches non-violence. And then Toran reminded me, well, what you said is true, but Christianism also preaches non-violence. Then why such attraction by this youth to the Buddhism? So, and I said the problem is not really, at the end of the day, a problem of a clashes of civilization. We are today facing a serious risk, and that risk is the clashes of ignorances. We have to learn to know each other better. We have to learn to respect each other. And I think education could help in that sense. And that's why it is important to develop strategies. And those strategies should aim first to create a rights-based and safe environment that do not harm. And second, we have also to develop a strategy of dealing with the past. In other words, teaching the history of genocide and atrocity crimes. And when I was in Argentina, they were developing that tool, and I have concluded also a project with the Director General of UNESCO to introduce the education to Holocaust and the prevention of genocide. And third, support the youth engagement skills, building community partnership, and engaging with youth online, in particular the social media and offline as well, to denounce incitement against all groups targeted and communicate alternative narratives. I thank you.
Muchas gracias, doctor Dieng, por esta intervención final desde su nido de águila, ¿verdad?, de su posición que lo ocupa en la ONU y su reflexión sobre el papel de la educación. Yo he retenido muchas frases, pero me quedo con una. Educar es aprender a vivir juntos, enseñar a vivir juntos. Podemos dar unos minutos para alguna pregunta a alguno de los ponentes o algún comentario que alguno quisiera hacer.
Es solamente un comentario. Me gustaría resaltar una idea que realmente me ha encantado en este panel y se ha repetido en varias intervenciones de los diferentes ponentes. Enseñar sobre la religión y creencias, que es muy diferente que enseñar la religión, como suele pasar a veces, tristemente, ¿no?, hasta endoctrinar a niños, alumnos, estudiantes y enseñarles en las escuelas, en las instituciones educativas, una cierta religión que suele ser la religión mayoritaria presente en un cierto país. Entonces, es como, o sea, damos la situación como poner una cesta de manzanas delante de una persona y decir, pues escoge la fruta que más te apetece. ¿Qué va a poder escoger si no se le ha dado más que manzanas? quizá conferencias tan magníficas como esta puedan cambiar estas situaciones si en las escuelas, las asignaturas relacionadas con la religión, se insista más en enseñar sobre la religión con el objetivo de respetar y tolerar a diferentes creencias y religiones y no insistir en una cierta religión, en una cierta creencia, sin darle la posibilidad al niño, al adolescente, al joven, de aprender algo más que lo que está viviendo.